Jesus has power to transform any life at all, no matter how dark the person's soul is, no matter what things they've done or where they've been. His power can bring light into any level of darkness. And many of you might be believing for someone to come to the Lord that you think, oh my gosh, they're so far from God. Will they ever come? And the answer is yes. If you're standing in the gap, they will come. Caleb Quaye is a very good friend of our ministry and also an XP channel host. He was a rock star and rubbed shoulders with the best, with very famous people. In fact, he was very well known himself. And he came from being a rock star to a heartfelt believer, a rock star that was moving in all kinds of darkness and involved with everything that lifestyle represents. And yet, he had an encounter with Jesus that you're going to hear about in just a moment. You're going to get to know Caleb Quaye because he's going to share his testimony. And if you go on his channel, you'll find out more that he has to offer, a lot of insight that you will enjoy. Here's Caleb now.
Having had an encounter with God, that was it really. I've always, all my life, I'd always been a seeker. You know, always was a person with questions. Pardon me. I grew up in church, but there was no spiritual connection with the God that they were preaching about. You know, there was like, I actually thought that, you know, I was never an atheist. I actually thought that God was just too busy in his administration of the universe to be bothered with me, you know. So it was like there was this distance, you know. So I thought, well, God was out there, you know, with angels and harps and stuff, and I was just down here, you know, ferreting around trying to make it the best way I could, you know. But I always had questions because I guess I always knew that there was something bigger that was outside the parameters of myself, you know. That's about the best way I could explain it, and I think music had a large part to do with that. Growing up in a musical family and just, I guess, being gifted with music at an early age, I knew that music was, it came from God, you know. It wasn't something that I could invent and say, oh, look at what this is. It's more like you hear this and then the struggle is the creative struggle is to try and pull down into this realm what you've just heard, whether you've heard it in a dream or something. You know, so I was aware of a spiritual reality out there. So that led me into a whole journey of, you know, studying some of the different religions and you know, some of the occult and astrology and all that kind of stuff. So I was always fascinated with whatever was out there, that beyond my parameters, you know. And so that was it. And then after a while, and of course that led into you know, a life of, you know, drugs and stuff. So I was, like many of my generation, looking for truth, looking for spiritual truth, but ended up going down the garden path, you know, ended up going in the wrong direction, you know, which became more self-destructive, you know. And then,
you had an encounter.
Yeah, one day I had an encounter, and it was interesting because I describe it as God basically gate crashing my party. So I'd become a successful musician, you know, and I was working actually with a band called Hall & Oates at this time. And I just had my 30th birthday, which was in 1978. And so the band and the crew threw a surprise party for me in the hotel. It was in Atlanta, Georgia. And after the party finished, so it's about like 5 o'clock in the morning, you know, we're on the road going crazy. And they held the party in my room, so everybody crawled out of my room. So I'm sat in a chair like this, just kind of, you know, winding down and getting ready to crash, and my back is to the window of the room. We're on the 9th floor of the Omni Hotel in Atlanta, and the only way I can describe it is I suddenly heard a voice speak to me. Now, you have to understand, I wasn't looking for Jesus at this time, or, you know, religion or anything like that. But I had questions. I was looking for answers to this existence we call life. You know. I had questions, but I wasn't looking for, you know, any kind of religion thing. But this voice just interrupted my space and just very firmly but yet gently called me by my name and said, Caleb, from this point on, your life is going to be completely different and nothing's going to be the same for you again. And the next thing I know, I'm not stoned anymore. This voice caught my attention. And in my own, you know, limited understanding, all I knew was I had been spoken to. And so I sat there in like the electricity of this silence, and I just made a promise to myself that one day I was going to find out who that voice belonged to. So I used to tell my friends about it. Here's my 30th birthday, you know,